Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz, and joining me from New Zealand, Dylan Williamson. Dylan, how's it going?
Very good. My neighbor just started his extremely loud car just as we started recording, so he's pulling out now, thankfully. So doing wonderful, Nate. How are you?
Good, good. If it makes you feel any better, the mics did not pick it up. So, or at least I didn't hear anything on my end.
Nice. This $80 mic is continuing to really prove itself. I've got a fan blowing directly at me. The neighbor's 2002 Nissan Skyline roaring in the background, and all you can hear is the beautiful tones of my voice.
Wait, he's got a Skyline? Does he have it tricked out? Does it have a NOS, this canister in it anywhere? And is the driver's side door, is it European? Like, are you driving on the right hand side of the car or the left hand side of the car?
We drive on the left side of the road, so the steering wheel is on the right.
Oh man.
Is this a Fast and Furious reference?
This is all Fast and Furious.
Mm.
Your neighbor just became the coolest person I know.
I think that movie had a huge impact on New Zealand culture because the Skyline is like the number one car among degenerate car enthusiasts.
As it should be. Why would you drive anything else if you could drive a Skyline with a can of NOS in it?
What's like the go-to degenerate vehicle in the US? I guess it's probably maybe it's regional. Like what does a small time Coke dealer drive in the US?
Probably a pickup truck, let's be honest.
Just the F-150.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be beat to. Well, actually, no, it won't be beat to shit. It will be very obvious that's like a
Yeah.
newer car, and you're like, how can you afford that? You work at like a house painting business. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you definitely sell Coke on the side, and you put your money into that car. Yeah.
Mm. Hey man, that guy's going to be refinancing now that Donald Trump has stopped the drug trade.
God, I actually I shouldn't say this, but I've lived the festival life. I mean, not really. I've been to a couple of
Like where
festivals.
where is this going?
No, no, I've been
I
to a
really
couple of
shouldn't say
festivals.
this, but I buy a lot of cocaine, and I'm worried.
No, actually, shit. Uh, no, I was gonna say like I know people who buy Coke. I could just text them like, hey, what does your dealer drive to find out the actual answer? And then
You
I
know
was
what?
like, then I was like, oh no, oh shit. One of my friends dated a Coke dealer for a long time, and he skipped town, and I actually got his some of his old clothes because he like just legit skipped town. And she's like, hey Nate, you're about this size, and like he left behind this really nice jacket. So I had like Michael Kors for men's like
Mm.
$1,000 jacket that I wore for a number of years till it kind of fell apart. Like it was legitimately like the nicest clothing I own that I got from the Coke dealer that skipped town.
That's awesome. Do you ever like wear it out and then you saw like people across the bar just like staring at you like
Yeah, no, no,
they recognized the jacket?
thankfully
It
no,
wasn't
but
that distinctive.
I mean it was a really nice jacket, but it was also kind of like a men's black, overcoat. Like, there's
Mm.
it was particularly nice in that it was soft, it was comfortable, well, but it looked like a bunch of $50 knockoff jackets that everyone then has. So
Mm.
like
I,
not that
I
distinctive.
I suppose it's the old um what's the Denzel movie where he's plays the big time drug dealer. Why am I blanking on it?
I do not
Anyway,
know.
the the,
Anyway,
the guy the guy that got caught because he wore the fur coat to the Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson match or whatever it was. Then the cops are like, wait, who is this guy wearing the fur coat? And so it's like the the contrary to that theory is you got to have like a coat that looks the same as everyone else's coat.
There's so many segues from that, but we're here to talk about the man that would wear the fur coat to his own trade, or however that works. Trae Young has been traded from the Atlanta Hawks to the Washington Wizards. I don't know if you find like a more depressing trade in
Hmm.
NBA history.
Hmm.
Just like, especially when you add to this that supposedly the Wizards may not play trade. So this was in part done as like a talent upgrade for the Hawks and part done as a tanking move for the Wizards. Don't, what are your thoughts on this deal?
Yeah, I mean the man who single-handedly ended the Sixers dynasty, their incoming dynasty. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's pretty rare to see actual NBA trades go through where it's such a depressing package. Like there's so much of an NBA trade is like winning the headline or like winning the tweet. And so
Hmm.
you want to be like, you'll see these bullshit deals where like ostensible all-star gets traded for a bullshit package, but then there'll be like, two heavily protected first round picks so that Shams can say, yeah, he got traded for, salary filler and also two first round picks. But there wasn't even this in this trade.
Yeah, I feel like if I was Trey and I had a no trade clause, like if you had a no trade clause and you're Trey, don't you try to veto this and be like, this is not good for my image to get traded for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert?
Mm. I'd even heard the idea that Washington may want to um, flip Trey again, and part of their negotiation was not having to give up picks to take him on, as in like the Hawks were like, "Come on, man, you gotta, you know, you get what I'm saying." Like Washington's
I
like,
get it.
we're giving up we're taking on your negative salary, you should give us something for it, and then like, actually, you know what, don't give us something for it because we want to trade Trey again, so we don't want to establish him as negative value. And so there's like this crazy thing of both sides are like, I want to give you this shitty package.
Do you think they could trade him again? Like, uh, what is the end goal for the Wizards here? Because Trey Johnson started to look good. I've started to get more requests for him as far as like a rookie check-in on TikTok to watch. It looks like his numbers were kind of coming up of late. Moving out CJ and potentially not playing Trae Young means Trey Johnson could get a lot of more time, a lot more touches. That kind of opens the door up for him. But if you're long term going to stick Trey around, I don't know what the fit looks like there.
Yeah, I mean, even just from where they're at from a team building perspective, it's a strange move to make to trade for an established veteran player with all these known flaws who's about to come due for a contract extension. Washington were about to come into a whole bunch of cap space, and maybe it's like preempting the fact that they knew that that free agency was shitty and that they would have had to, get to the salary floor by giving out a crappy contract anyway. So they're like, well, we're about to have that issue, so let's just commit that money now, and then we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. Have you looked at all at who are the upcoming free agents for next season?
It's not good, right?
No, I'm looking
Free,
at
free
Hoop
agency's
Hype's.
dead.
Yeah, I'm looking at Hoop Hype's their top salaries that are coming due. Out of the top 20 player salaries, LeBron James is the only outright free agent from like the highest paid tier. Looking at the second tier, you got Trae Young and James Harden, both of whom have player options. And so that's uh, payroll 1 through 40. LeBron is the only guy that is truly a free agent next summer. Beyond that, going 40 through 60, you have Chris Middleton, Kristaps Porzingis, and CJ McCollum, some
Mm.
names that Washington is already familiar with. Continuing our way down the list, 60 through 80, we've got Anthony Simons, Terry Rozier, Tobias Harris, John Collins, DeAndre Ayton. Do any of those names strike you as like guys you particularly want to have on your roster?
Absolutely not. And I mean, it's just continuing a trend which we I think I've probably spoken about before, that
Hmm.
um, with players' abilities now to have such sway in their trade requests, that free agency to change team is become sort of almost a redundant exercise when you can just sign the extension, you guarantee the money, you lock it up, you don't have to risk getting hurt and going into free agency without a contract, with an injury. Like, you can just sign the extension and then just say, "Oh, by the way, I actually don't want to be here. So if you could trade me, that'd be cool." Like, free agency's kind of dead. You get the bag, and then if you don't want to be there, you just request the trade. Um, and so for some of these teams like Washington, who were about to have cap space, or even like the Clippers, are about to have the opportunity to have cap space. What do you do with it? There is always like you can trade players into your cap space.
Hmm. You can take bad
There's
money to get a pick from another team, but like, I don't know. That's There's less and less bad money with how short contracts are
mm,
these days. Like,
yeah.
I mean, either that or like the money looks real bad. Like the Paul George contract. Whenever Anthony Davis signs his extension, those contracts are gonna be
The day that
particularly
Anthony
brutal.
Davis signs his extension, he joins that list.
So
Um,
brutal.
yeah, but yeah, like free agency's kind of dead, and so maybe it's Washington are like, this is the best that we can do. Let's just make our play now. But it is sort of a strange position. Or maybe they're feeling good about where their young guys are. Between George and Saar, maybe they're expecting a bit of a jump. Um, like Koulibaly, a bounce back season maybe, but it is strange that they're making this move. Like, normally you'd see this, it'd be like a little more justifiable if your young players had sort of played their way out of your ability to tank.
Hmm.
But like Washington is still uh, a negative 11.8 net rating. They're bottom three in offense and defense. Like,
Unless they're playing the Milwaukee Bucks. If they're playing the Milwaukee
yeah.
Bucks, they're somehow much better, even if Giannis is back. But
Mm,
I do think, in my mind, part of this trade and the idea behind it is we're shifting our cap space because I think Trae Young will probably opt into this player option. Like, I don't think he's going to get 49 million. And we can
well,
talk
you
more
can.
about.
I mean, the other option that you get, with a lot of guys negotiating out of their player option, is that you turn down this player option now, and then we'll start you on a lower number but give you more years, and so you make more overall money, even while
Yeah,
reducing your year one salary.
I'm I if I'm Washington, I'm hoping he picks up the option and we can kind of roll our cap space into 2026, or sorry, into 2027, where it's a more competitive free agent class. Maybe you can take a swing at Giannis. He's talked about wanting to be on a coastal city. I don't know that DC is the coastal city he's dreamed of, but you know, Sar can be a pick and pop big. Bilal is a defensive stopper. For George, I've loved his defensive energy and some of his downhill drives. Like he's kind of modeled a little bit like Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is still there. Maybe they can bring him back on a reduced contract. And all of a sudden, you've got a team that kind of looks like they fit around Giannis. And then if you bring back Trey at a discount after that year, um, I don't know. I think that starts to become a really interesting Giannis landing point, and at that point, I see the vision. If you can, if this is the get Giannis in the door or play.
Yeah, and like maybe this is a bit on their ability to continue to attract players. Um, we have seen in recent times that um, players have kind of wanted to be in Washington. Like, we saw Alex Sarr pre-draft trying to work his way to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Ace Bailey, you know, do everything he could to get to Washington, only for the Utah Jazz to decline his wishes.
Requests. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the the report goes out that Trae Young wants to be in Washington, pre-trade. How much of that is just like controlling the narrative of like Washington seems like they're going to trade for you. You don't want to seem like you've been sent somewhere that you don't want to go. Um, and so, like, yeah, there's that perspective. But it does seem like players want to be in Washington.
Well, Ace Bailey, Alex Sarr, and Trae Young want to be in Washington. What do those players have in common?
They I know you're going to say that like it's they want to put up shots or they want the ball or they want to be on a team where there's no other options to get in their way. But there are plenty of other teams like that. Like Washington has more veterans and more scoring than Utah does. And Ace Bailey went out of his way to get to Washington instead. And so I think that there probably is certainly a degree of like perceived opportunity, but I think players also are maybe perceiving Washington as a a good organization with a future with upside maybe.
I was going to say that it's perceived as a player-friendly market, where, Sarr really wanted to go there because he kind of wanted to dictate the terms. He wanted to start. He wanted to play a little bit more four than five and be next to a big. And so they brought in Valanciunas to be there with him. And it was all kind of like a, hey, how can we ease you in a little bit more than if he had gone to Atlanta? It was like, well, they already have Clint Capella, and like, can he start? Can he not? They've got Jalen Johnson, and there was barriers. Um, I I think this is a no harm, no foul move for Washington. And like, we were just to slap trade grades on these things. I give this an A minus because they got a guy who has skills, has value, and I understand there's also a lot of drawbacks to Trae Young. There's his defensive lapses. There's the fact that he can sometimes just dribble the shit out of the ball. I've made fun of Atlanta's offense for the last like 3 years by saying like counting the inbounds pass, take like if you took a drink every time him you didn't get more than two passes, you'd be just wasted. And like, you could watch Hawks games with Trae, and there's the inbounds pass, Trae dribbles it up, dribbles it around, and either he shoots or the guy he immediately passes to shoots, and there's nothing else in the offense. So like, there's a lot of drawbacks, but ultimately cost Washington next to nothing, and there are a lot of upsides. So I give it an A minus for the Wizards.
Yeah, and I mean it's as you say, there's very little downside. Like this is effectively with a lot of steps in between, just turning Bradley Beal into Trae Young. Um, it's a pretty lateral move, or a slight
Mm-hmm.
upgrade. Not to mention a few first round picks as well. Um, and so like they end up in a position where like Trae Young seems like the kind of guy who can probably make a young center's life pretty easy. And if Sarr can reach his defensive potential, he's the kind of guy that can potentially make Trae Young viable as part of a defense. And so yeah, it's a strange move, but it's as you say, sort of no harm necessarily in doing it,
Yeah.
and probably
For the
helps them
Hawks,
tank as well.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially if he's not playing. You're getting a lot of Trey Johnson time. Like, great for Trey's development and Trey Johnson's development. And rookie guards generally hurt you more than they help you. So, um, go get Debanza. Debanza? Debanza? AJ? Cam Boozer. Go get Cam Boozer.
I don't watch college. I don't know.
Uh, for the Hawks side of things, I think it's interesting because you are adding more long-term money in that Corey Kispert deal, but it's pretty friendly. It's only $13 million a year, or it actually declines, and then ends in a team option. So like, if he can be a solid shooter, capable defender, that's a really cheap contract as a bench piece. And then CJ's 30 million expires this year, and I don't know what team is giving him more than like 20 to 25 million for the next couple of years. So you could probably re-sign him relatively cheap, and then you've got uh, you've got quality bench pieces now to like throw into this roster and just bring shooters in off the bench and add some depth. I actually kind of like this even as a win now move for the Hawks.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's interesting that it's because you're moving off of your supposed franchise centerpiece. Whenever you do that, it's going to be seen as like a future facing move.
Hmm.
But like CJ McCollum might be better than Trae Young this year, and like the contracts are going to be better, and so like they probably like did they win all round? CJ is also a guy that is going to be more willing to play a role. Like
Hmm.
if you did want to, start Nikhil and Dyson together, and just have like a monster defensive backcourt, and then bring CJ off the bench to just take 10 threes and get buckets. Like he's got to accept that in a way that Trae Young isn't.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking is that you now can play more defensive starting lineups and have like good shooters to mix in throughout the game. And you don't have to like start with this offensive negative and go down. And now the ball just gets to be in Jalen Johnson's hands, which when we were doing the All-Star or picks last week, Johnson was averaging north of 25, 7, and 7. Like I don't have his stats up in front of me right now, and given how Basketball Reference is moving on my computer right now, I don't really want to pull them up. But you got a guy that is a triple double threat from a scoring, rebounding, and assist this perspective. Why not have the ball in his hands more and see what can happen?
Mm. And like maybe this is Atlanta coming to this conclusion that I have seen in the sort of NBA sphere of this discourse around you know the the death of the small ball dominant point guard, with Trae Young being traded for absolutely nothing, with some other guys around the market not drawing interest. Just with the way that the game's been played, maybe this is Atlanta coming to this conclusion that a lot of other people are, coming to around small ball dominant guards.
I I wonder about that because it's just here's the thing. There are more 6 footers in the world than there are 6'5" people. Um, there are so many more, and so like there, you have a greater chance of having a very talented 6 footer, and so I feel like small guards will always have value, but I think part of their value is going to have to be just all around. You will not be able to have small guards who specialize in point scoring as much. You'll have to have
Mm.
a small guard who can also be a defensive stopper, who can be a distributor, who can play on or off ball. I went and looked up the All NBA for last season, which was the first year's position list, and we still had 6 point guards in there. 7 if you want to count Donovan Mitchell, who I realize is technically playing shooting guard, but like he kind
Mm.
of is a point
Mm.
guard.
Mm.
Um, so I don't know that we're ever really going to move past having small guards of importance, but I definitely think that their value may be shifting in that we also have a Ja Morant trade rumors or trade speculation going on.
Yeah, and like you say, it's maybe not necessarily small guards in general, but it's a type of this particular archetype of player that we had seen in the 2010s or so of on ball do everything creator who creates all of your offense, everything runs through him, and doesn't necessarily give you anything else. But with the
Hmm.
way that the NBA has been played now, with fewer minutes, more intensity on both ends. The average team now picking up in the backcourt. You can't really get away with a guy just doing nothing on defense when you can have guys. When the opponent is going to be playing that way.
Hmm.
Um, Now it's that kind of on ball pressure trend that we're seeing. does necessitate you having capable point guards at all times. Like gone are the days where you can, throw it to some random guy to bring the ball up because opponents are now going to pick you up in the backcourt. And if you're not a very strong dribbler, like you're going to get turned around and it's just going to ruin your offense. And so it does, necessitate the the presence of capable point guards, guys with really good dribbling ability. But I think with the way that the NBA is trending, you now need to be a guy who's going to do other things in order for your team to succeed. With more being asked of each position defensively, you can't have just let alone a negative, even just a specialist on ball stopper is almost not enough these days. From sort of the wing positions where now shooting guards are being asked to, defend at the rim to bring that level of help that maybe they weren't necessarily, wasn't necessarily being asked of them in previous years. Shifts more defensive role to the point guard.
I definitely think you're seeing kind of the death of specialists, and I feel like there's always a bit of a yo-yo where you'll go from being like, hey, the league really prizes all-around players to, well, specialists just are so good at this thing that it makes them worth having, even if they don't have this all-around game. Then back to the prizing all-around players. And I think we're getting closer to that because we've just had this discussion about small guards. New York seems to be doing just fine with a small guard and with a center that is like a primary outside hit guy. But even in that, part of what made New York work well was Cat learning how to drive a little bit more and getting better defensively. And what made Brunson able to be valuable is that he plays on and off ball. He both drives and attacks the paint and can shoot the three. And with Trae and Ja, I mean, Ja's shooting has just fallen off a cliff. Um, Trae, solid shooter, but does not attack the paint and at the levels that you'd want. Whereas a Brunson, I think he can walk both lines, and I think that you may have to have a guard that can do both inside and outside like that.
Yeah, or like you say, you just need to be incredibly diverse in order to succeed now, where you can't be a, run pick and roll, kick to the open man, get downhill, get a floater, or if they go under, shoot the three. Like
Hmm.
you need to be able to do all of that, but also get to the mid range if the big is dropping and the guards getting stuck on the screen. You need to be able to finish inside, and more importantly, get to the free throw line. Um, and so yeah, it's maybe I think in a way it is this archetype of player is being played out of
Yeah.
this sort of offense only but more narrowly skilled star, which we've seen succeed in previous years.
I mean, yeah, yeah. There are always counter examples. I think Tyrese Halliburton did a really good job last year. I mean, fuck it, his
Mm.
team made the NBA Finals. Of course, he did a good job. That's calling the ocean wet. But uh, by being able to play both on and off ball, by keeping the ball moving, and he is not a small guard because I think he's what 6'5", 6'6". He's incredibly thin, and so he kind of has some of the small guard traits. But like he's not a super ball dominant guard. He is a point guard that runs the offense, that initiates it, but also keeps the ball moving. It doesn't stick. And so it's the stickiness combined with being small, combined with other limitations where either they're not able to score in diverse situations that's getting kind of worked its way out.
Mm. And maybe it's like it's this latest skill set to go the way of the post up in the mid range, where if you are very good at it, like you're still going to be able to play this way. If you're Jalen Brunson or Tyrese Halliburton, you can still be this, almost heliocentric style of point guard where you're the primary focus on every single possession, and you've got the ball and you're touching at every possession. Um, if you're that level, then absolutely you're still going to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
for these lower level guys
Mm-hmm.
who, there's no more drop the ball into into the post for Dwight Howard to miss a hook shot, or there's no more your small forward that shoots 32% on pull up mid ranges, and is your full scoring option. Like he's not able to take that shot anymore, and so maybe it's this way, this continuing trend of um, narrowing players into their most efficient role, and where players who are able to succeed at this thing do still do it and almost need to lean into it more. But for the players who aren't elite at that skill, that's being taken away from them.
Yeah. Yeah. So then what do you make of a Ja Morant trade market? Where do you see him going? What do you think is a good fit for him?
I mean, Ja is a really difficult one because not only is he, part of this archetype where we're saying we have questions about, the way that they fit into this postmodern NBA. But even just like this isn't prime Ja Morant. The guy from a few years ago who would you could maybe say is makes all that worthy. Um, he hasn't been an efficient scorer this year, or going back um, the last couple seasons. You really got to go back to like 21, 22 to get a efficient, ultra efficient scoring season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you combine that with okay, well, sometimes, guys aren't scoring themselves efficiently, but they're able to drive really efficient offense, which was also the case in 21, 22, where the Grizzlies were awesome on offense. And, there was um, Ja Morant was a big part of that. But the Grizzlies stink on offense this year. And they're even they get better when Ja Morant isn't on the floor. And so you've got this, these two, this confluence of things where the league is moving past the type of player that Ja Morant is, combined with the fact that he's not even that level of player himself anymore. Um, and then you add in the fact that he misses a bunch of games due to injury, but also by just continually sticking his foot in his own mouth, and doing all this stupid off court shit. And obviously not a guy who's disciplined and willing to buy in, to do what it takes to be a winner. And so it gets really hard to find a suitor. I mean, it's got to be almost one of these teams where um, either like Washington, where you've got the money that's not really going to do anything for you, and you can afford to take a swing to potentially get some upside, or it's got to be a team that is in a sort of a more desperate situation where you need to take a swing, and Jar's the sort of low price buy-in, the sort of high risk, high reward kind of player, that can maybe save your season or save your franchise.
So who's the team? What's the swing?
Um, I mean, like, can the Kings keep just recycling washed up players? Um, like the the Timberwolves in theory need a point guard. Not a great fit there. The money gets hard to match. It's like Gobert for Ja Morant, uh, an
I feel like
upgrade
that's a
for them.
non-starter. No, you can't give up Gobert. They need his defense way too much.
Mm-hmm,
It
mm-hmm,
uh, ESPN ended top four Ja Morant trades or four Ja Morant trade options,
mm.
and their Minnesota trade packages Rob Dillingham and Nas Reed for him, and I don't envision Minnesota giving up Nas. Uh, you kind of have to get a player like Ja, but I, I don't know if that's all it took. I would consider it if I was Minnesota, but I don't think they would.
Yeah, especially like we saw how much they believe in Nas Reed and are bought into Nas Reed because they let Nikhil Alexander Walker, who's a better fit for what they actually need, go. Like
Hmm.
they need a starting two guard or one guard, and they let him go to sign a backup center, and so you can tell that they are really bought in. Um, like obviously the Bucks are a team that's going to come up because they're in
They're
this awkward
desperate.
position of like they have spent all their assets in order to win the championship that they did and put together the championship teams that they did, where now they are bereft of ways to surround Giannis with talent, and Giannis is you know not doing anything to dissuade the idea that he'll be traded or will want to be traded. And Milwaukee
He,
does have.
Giannis did come out, if it was yesterday or 2 days ago, Owen said that he has not requested a trade and his plan is always to spend the rest of his career in Milwaukee. So, like, that is doing a little to dissuade the idea of a trade.
I guess so. I always see it like more like Giannis trying to make himself look like the good guy,
Oh, sure, but it is a little something.
before eventually being like you know almost Dame Lillard style, like no no no, don't trade me, and then they get to the
Hmm.
position where your franchise is totally screwed, and now they can't get any value for you. Um, and so it's like yeah, almost that sort of thing. But like Milwaukee does have crappy money that they can package together.
Kyle
Um,
Kuzma, baby.
it's Kyle Kuzma will fit right in the Grizzlies. High IQ, hard defense playing style. Um, but like the Giannis Jarfit is extremely questionable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was just trying to look through list of teams. And I was like, Atlanta? Well, they just gave up Trae Young. They probably don't want him. Boston, no. Brooklyn, maybe. But like, your team is then MPJ and Ja, or do you send out MPJ like, and just we're gonna send out MPJ and get Ja and a pick like I don't think Memphis is trying to give up assets to get off of Ja. So like there starts to be some accumulation there. Charlotte, I don't see them making that move. I don't think you want to pair Ja with Brandon Miller. Chicago, why? Who cares?
Mm.
Cleveland,
Um,
no. Dallas, I don't want.
Orlando, like they continue to try to improve their offense and continue to be really bad on offense. Like maybe this is the kind of thing that could push them into the top 20 in offense.
Listen, if I'm Memphis though, I'm not sending Ja anywhere near that team. Like, you got all their picks already.
Mm.
I don't want to help them. There there is I went through all of this. I went through like every team trying to look for a good Ja Morant destination that makes me excited for both Ja and the team. Like, if he goes to Sacramento, it may be a great place for him to like rejuvenate and get lots of touches, and who cares what happens, but I'm not excited for it.
Ja for
Um,
Zach Levine, just phone it in.
Actually, your Clippers I find kind of interesting. You get Ja out there, but you probably have to give up James Harden. Um, I I was trying to talk myself into Trae Young to the Pistons when it was all Trae Young talk. Look, and I got there. I was like, maybe Tobias and Ivy for Trae. And then I was like, would I also give it up for Ja? And I was like, no, no, the lack of shooting just not not worth it.
He'll fit right in there with Asar and Ron Holland.
It's not it's not the fitting in that I want. Pelicans have Jeremiah Fears now, who's looking good. Um, Phoenix would be somewhat interesting, and to get him, Dylan Brooks back together, but to make it work contracts wise is just really weird and funky, and
Mm, does
you've just
does
gone
Dylan
through the
Brooks have to
whole.
be in the trade? And
Yeah,
that's a guy you don't want to give up.
yeah. Um,
Oh, they've got Jalen Green. I forgot they had Jalen
Portland
Green.
they could give up Jalen Green for Ja. Be Green and
You
I
can
mean you do
pretty much do it straight up.
yeah. I actually don't hate that. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe Phoenix should
Yeah,
get involved.
yeah. I mean, Phoenix quietly has been punching above their weight to a degree.
Oh,
Like
it's
they're
not been quiet.
they're having a really good season, but it's on the back of a pretty strong um defense.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of worried about the offense kind of swinging back around to uh, being being quite questionable. Like they're shooting really well from three so far. Maybe some guys up, playing above their heads, and so having a more offensive guy could maybe help out.
It was I feel like Dylan Brooks has only played like 2 or 3 games at this point. And so he just getting him back may be a helpful thing for their offense. And so maybe they don't want to try to rock the boat by going all the way in for Ja. But the Phoenix thing, I just want to touch on it real quick because it's been fantastically shocking. I thought they were going to be like a 25 win team. This is my favorite team that I've been wrong on because I was also very wrong on
Hmm,
the Celtics, and I hate that I'm
yeah,
wrong on the Celtics so much because they
yeah,
suck.
yeah,
Um, but no, they've just been playing a bunch of banshees defensively, and I remember that was the term JJ Redick coined for Jordan Goodwin was that he's like a banshee. He just run around yelling and screaming. But Ryan Dunn is great defensively. Osi Godaro has been made my exuberance of calling him Serge Ibaka for the next generation look like a decent call. That was a crazy take. Like, Royce O'Neal and Dylan Brooks being the starting 3-4, like
yeah, and
switchable.
succeeding to the utmost degree.
Yeah,
And then Colin Gillespie's been one of the finds of the season.
absolutely. And he was there last year. Like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I forget their coach's name. 'Cause it's his first year, and it's
Jordan
just
Ott.
the coach Jordan Knott. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever you see this kind of team, where they particularly defensively outperform their talent,
Hmm.
like Dylan Brooks is a good defender, you know, Royce O'Neal's a solid kind of guy,
Ryan Dunn
but
is a great defender. He
yeah,
deserves a lot of credit.
Ryan's done as well. But like, this isn't a team with a whole lot of necessarily a team that you thought would be a great defense. And so whenever you see a team without elite defensive talent get into they're basically top five in defense now. Looking at cleaning the glasses defensive ratings, they're tied with Toronto and Houston basically at a 112.8 defensive rating. And this is a team that was one of the worst defensive teams in the league last year and carried over a lot of the same talent. Um, and so whenever you can see that sort of outperformance of your talent, that's when you know that coaching is playing a great role, especially when they're able to do it with playing into your team's defensive uniqueness, the way that they have done
Hmm.
with their, as you say, their banshee like defense and their turnover forcing.
Uh, and to something we touched on earlier, they have a small guard in Colin Gillespie. He's 6'1", 195 pounds, the way he's listed on Basketball Reference. But the ball doesn't
And
stick
he's
in his
white, which is
hands.
a multiplying factor.
It's a multiplying or a dividing factor.
As in he's going to get attacked even more.
Yeah, but the ball doesn't stick in his hands. The team keeps it snappy. You've got a lot of guys who are not playing a ton of minutes. Devin Booker is at 33.9. Dylan Brooks is 30.6. Everyone else is below 30 minutes. So they're fresh, they're agile. Well, I kind of wonder if we maybe end up in a era a little bit more like the 90s where you have your one star, like every team has their one star, but then the next 8 guys are fairly interchangeable in
Mm,
that you can just switch them all out and run platoons and
yeah.
really
I
go
mean,
deep.
that definitely has been the trend of the NBA, and like starting with the Thunder and the Pacers, like we say, it's a copycat league, and I think the impact of those two teams has been incredibly profound. The difference in this season, even compared to just last season, and with a lot more up tempo, pushing the pace on both ends, picking up in the backcourt, and getting the ball across half court in as little time as possible. Like
Hmm.
you can't do that while also playing 36 minutes, and so you've got to get more guys in. And that really, I think, has been a trend of teams going deeper, minutes coming down, and the importance of your reserves um, increasing as a result. You see, gone are the days of playing 8 guys in the regular season and playing all your starters incredibly high minutes.
Yeah, yeah. I think ultimately, whatever deal does get done for Ja Morant, just to kind of circle back to Ja, is going to be even more depressing than the Trae Young deal that we just saw. There's going to be even less given up for him.
Yeah, you you almost wonder, as Memphis, if you kind of needed to go first in this market where you've got Ja and Trey as trade targets.
Hmm.
Like would could you have done the Washington deal and probably be in a better position?
Well, I think it's either you need to go first, or you needed to not let it get this public that Ja wants out and that the team is not interested in bringing him back. They can like, I think when the divorce is this public, this messy, like there's not a ton of reason that teams want to give you anything more than like matching salaries. Like you've telegraphed that you want to move off of him as much as he wants to move off of you. So like, I look ESPN's article. I want to say it was Zach Cram that wrote this one as well. Oh, it looks like a lot of contributing guys. This contributed. A lot of people contributed. Cram did the Heat version, which is Ja for Tyler Hero and Sabonis Fontecchio. And I'm just like, why? Why would Miami give up Tyler Hero for Ja? Like
Mm.
that's too much.
Yeah, not only that, but sort of a background thing that makes Ja a particularly bad fit in Miami is they've had this quite unique style of offense this season, which was brought in by um, uh, God damn it. The Anyway, it's the offense that Memphis were running last season that really pissed Jar off with a lot of moving the ball and not a lot of ball screens.
Hmm.
Um, like that alienated Jar against the coaching staff and that he complained so much about. And so if he goes to Miami, like that's the system that they're running now and how they've been able to succeed so well. And so like Ja Morant is a particularly bad fit because he already had that system run for him and hated it and
Hmm.
complained. And so like Miami, I think, is a particularly bad fit. It's something to be aware of. What was the guy's name?
Eastlo?
No,
I want to say Eastlo.
the other assistant coach they had last year, who's now a independent consultant, and
But
um,
that's I don't know what his name
no,
is.
Noah LaRoche. That's it.
Mm,
They're running the Noah LaRoche offense, which Ja Morant absolutely hated. And so,
yep.
for people who see Miami as this great fit, um, that's an important consideration. They're running the exact offense that he so hated, and and
Hey,
and, and the reason that they're succeeding is that offense.
I'm just gonna say this though. I was very against the Knicks trading for Carl Anthony Towns because I was like, there's no way New York's gonna pair Carl Anthony Towns with Tom Thibodeau. They hated each other. I was wrong. The easier answer was just they were gonna fire Tom Thibodeau after the year. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's a difference between personnel and system.
sure.
Like like personalities, even you know two guys that don't like each other, like they can kind of get over it. But
Hmm.
the entire offensive system that your team, the offensive principles that your team's based on being antithetical to who you are as a player, is a little bit harder to move past, especially for a guy like Ja, who's proven that he is not willing to, adapt himself for the betterment of the team.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the other ESPN trade ideas were to Toronto, which they've got him going for Emmanuel Quickly and Ochai Agbaji and a top 14 protected first round pick. That's a non-starter. Toronto's been too good for that trade. Quickly and Abaji's shooting is actually important to the Raptors, and I don't think Ja would accept living in Canada. I just feel like Ja is not a Canada guy.
Okay, okay. Toronto's another one of those teams like Phoenix where I'm a little bit dubious of their success. Maybe not so much on defense, because they do have almost Phoenix like, this sort of high pressure, high turnover, solid style of defense. But I'm a little bit dubious of their offense still, and so for that reason, maybe Ja could potentially be like, something of a fit.
No, no.
Especially because, like,
So there, if you're thinking he's going to help raise their offense, one of the things that's kind of clunky about the Raptors' offense right now is the lack of shooting, and especially within the starters. I mean, when RJ was hurt, it was really glaringly obvious. But Ingram and Barnes, neither of them are good shooters. And if you're going to put well, you have those two, and then when you had Pirtle, it was like three bad shooters on the floor at the same time. Um, you could not do those three plus Ja. So like it's just a bad offensive fit. And then in I don't know. I feel like the Raptors really like Shed, and I think there is a potential that hey, we want to move off of quickly because he's gonna cost too much. But like, why not just promote the guy who's defensively developing into a very nice stopper who can shoot
yeah,
40% from three and isn't going to demand the ball all the time versus trading and locking up, a third of your cap space on this ball dominant non-shooter to pair with your other non-shooters.
I'm also a Jamal Shed fan. I'm with you, Toronto. um, what's an interesting fact about Toronto, which maybe emphasizes their how poor a fit they could be just in terms of their offensive system. Um, all of their top 8 guys, with the exception of um, Emmanuel Quickly, their point guard, have above average assist percentages for their position. So the
Hmm.
the amount of teammate shots that come from their assist are above average for every one of their top 8 players by minutes, with the exception of Quickly, who's being compared to other point guards who obviously have the ball a lot more and are running more plays. Um, so yeah, obviously evidence of a not so sticky ball.
Yeah. Well, I think we've done enough on the death of the like one-way offensive. You guys, unless you want to try to make a projection, where does Ja land?
No, I can't even begin to guess. Like even Trae Young, like I couldn't see a fit, and then the eventual trade is just this like totally unpredictable Washington who don't have a good fit for him, trading him for absolutely nothing. And so the yeah, I imagine if there is a jar trade, it's got to be somewhat similar.
Yeah. Well, the trade deadline is a little over 3 weeks away by the time I'll have this posted. It, another thing that I wanted to talk about today, and I sent you this article a little bit beforehand, was ESPN dropped an article on the 13 blockbuster or 14 blockbuster trades since 2014. And this article was written by Zach Cram, and so we'll give him his full kudos here. And they defined a blockbuster trade as any trade that required more than four total first round picks or swaps. So it had to be uh, first rounders. You couldn't just have those like five second rounders for Jay Crawford in there. And of the 14, they determined that five were major failures, two were minor failures, two were minor successes, and three were major successes, with with two yet to be determined, uh, the Desmond Bain trade and the Mikal Bridges trade were the yet to be determined.
Yeah, do you wanna go through what those trades are?
Yeah, yeah. So going through them in chronological order, you have the Nets acquiring Paul Pierce and KG. This was determined to be a major failure as part of the picks that they sent out were Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And part of what made this so brutal was the Nets were like a mid-tier playoff team when they gave up everyone to get very old stars. This was not like let's try to get over the hump or like we've got a long runway. This was almost immediately a failure. The next one on the list is the Lakers trading for Anthony Davis in 2019.
Hmm.
Ingram, Ball, Hart, four picks, or well, four, but one was swap rights that was not exercised. And they declared this a major success. I don't. Would you call this a major success because of the championship?
Yeah, like that's the point. I think whenever you make this kind of trade, like NBA championships are so hard to come by. If you can swing a trade that gets you a championship, I think it's a success. Like, one we'll come to later. Um, let me just see. Is it on? Yeah, which is also on the list is the Drew Holiday trade.
Yeah,
Um, like, yes, that they're paying for it now. Like, part of why they're so bad now is that they made that trade. Um, but it got you a championship, and so I think whenever, yeah, whenever you do that, it's a massive success. Not only that, but it also got you a guy who you were able to fleece another team to get
that's
Luka
fair.
Doncic for. Like,
That's fair.
if they had a trader for a guy who was a really good offensive player but couldn't play defense, they never would have been able to fleece Nico Harrison for Luka Doncic.
Fair enough. Then you have of the other 2019 blockbuster deal, Shea, Danilo Gallinari, five first round picks, four, yeah, five and a swap to the OKC Thunder for Paul George, and this was declared a major failure. Dylan, I assume you agree with that verdict?
Um, I mean, there's two kind of ways that you've got to look at the trade, right? Like, you've got to look at, did it achieve the goal that you were setting out, which was, did it make the Clippers into a championship team? Um, from that perspective, it's a minor failure. Like, they did build a team that went to a conference finals, that was preseason championship favorites one time, and could maybe have done more if it weren't for you know some strange implosions. But then there's also the perspective of how did it turn out when you consider the totality of the trade and the future impact. And so trading um, Shea Gilgeous Alexander for one conference finals is obviously a major failure.
Yeah. The next trade was the Rockets acquiring Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul and two first and two swaps. Both swaps were not exercised. I don't know that I consider this one a major a blockbuster deal. Would you even call this a blockbuster?
Yeah, they got an All NBA player and moved another All NBA player and first round picks. I think it's a blockbuster deal.
Feel like it's by the letter of the law of four picks at the time of the trade, but the fact that it's not really. I guess technically one of these picks hasn't even conveyed yet. So you got the 2026 first year. This one was declared a minor failure, or because they just weren't better with Westbrook, and they pushed the Warriors decently hard with Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean they were a pretty good team.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
both with Chris Paul and with Russell Westbrook.
yeah. I think I call it either not a blockbuster or a larger failure, a moderate. It's not quite a minor, or because you got worse and you give up picks and you got yeah.
Yeah. Either way, it's a failure.
Yeah, I think if you get worse and you give up picks, it should be a larger failure. Um, Drew Holiday they trade.
Mm.
RJ Bledsoe three well RJ Bledsoe, RJ Hampton, three more firsts and a swap. This is the swap that's bouncing around that's currently in Atlanta. Uh, and then I forget where their first is. I think the Pelicans still have the 2027 first. This was a major declared a major success because they won the title. Yeah, yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, 4 first round picks for an NBA championship. That's a good deal.
You live with it. The Nets acquiring James Harden for Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, Torian Prince, and let's see, three firsts and four swaps.
I mean, a failure in the sense that like James Harden's value so declined um, that like when they traded him, they traded him for Ben Simmons, right?
They did.
I'm right in remembering that, and so like the value is terrible. That team was really good. Like people do forget
Mm-hmm.
when when they had their guys, they were awesome. If Kyrie doesn't get hurt, if KD doesn't step on the line, like the Nets team was actually really good, and so they were in a position where they were, you know, they had a shot at a championship. Um, but the fact that they failed and failed maybe in predictable ways, as in like James Harden didn't perform in the playoffs and Kyrie Irving got hurt, like those are two things that you can kind of bet on. And then also that you know, it ended up being James Harden for Ben Simmons, which is such a low value move. I think you got to consider that as part of the analysis and then call it a bigger failure because of that.
So they said almost a major success, but actually a major failure. I actually call it a minor success. I think you put yourself in a position to win a title. The global pandemic is the thing that really derailed them.
Mm,
Kyrie really
sorry, yes, you're
derailing them.
yeah,
Like,
you're right. I forgot that aspect that it was Kyrie refusing to get a vaccination is
yeah,
really
I
what doomed the team.
I feel like there's nothing you could do around that, and so I call this a minor success because you put yourself in a good position to try to win it, and you know what, it didn't work out, but like you did the best you could.
Yeah, no, I like the phrasing from Cram there. Um, where it's both a solid success and a solid failure. Maybe wrapping around to, as you say, a minor success that you were able to, you know, put yourself in a position where you, if some things that weren't unusual occurred, that you might have had more
Yeah.
success.
You know what's funny about this list is the frequency keeps going up, despite the fact that I feel like we keep seeing more failures. Like,
As in the year by year frequency.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was the 2013 was the first one. Then we had three in 19, 1 in 20, 1 in 22 or 21, three in 22, in 23, 1 in 24, and then two more in 2025. Um, so like the bulk of these have happened the last few years, with the Nets one being kind of the outlier, the initial Nets one for um, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. Person is just like, we see that these aren't working. Why are we increasing the frequency at which we're doing these? Uh, the next trade was the Hawks acquiring of DeJounte Murray. What a blockbuster. Or that was. Three firsts and one swap. One of the firsts did not convey because of protection, so a fake first there.
Hmm. That was quite brutal.
Yeah, the fact that the Spurs still have those picks and Like it's preventing the Hawks from really trying to tank. Like thank God Jalen Johnson has been a good player for them and has
Mm,
really developed because that could have been rough.
yeah, it'll be that position that sort of nightmare scenario that was being talked about a little bit early in the season of like the Thunder, are the best team in the NBA. They run away with the championship, and then they also got a top five pick.
Hmm.
Could have been the same thing for the Spurs, where they're like the best up and coming team. They've got Wembanyama, who's sort of knocking on the door of being the best player in the NBA, and a couple other really good young players, and then they also have Atlanta's number three overall pick. Could have been quite disastrous for the
Yeah,
rest of the NBA.
yeah. The next two are both Utah Jazz tradeaways. You've got Minnesota getting Rudy Gobert for the price of four firsts, one swap, and three players. And you've got the Cavaliers getting in Donovan Mitchell for Markkanen, Colin Sexton, three firsts, and two swaps. Both they declared Minnesota a major success and Cleveland only a minor success.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you've got to like consider them both successes. Where like, I was saying earlier that if you win a championship, it all doesn't matter. But not every team is going to win the championship, and giving yourself a shot, being a relevant team, making a conference finals, like that is a form of success. And so I think you've got to consider the Gobert um, move as success, and Cleveland getting a franchise player.
I
Um,
I want to downgrade both of these. I want to downgrade the Timberwolves acquisition of Gobert to just a minor success because we still haven't seen them make the finals. They're better, but they're not great. And it's a lot to give up, and it's to handicap them. It forced them to trade Cat away because of the lack of financial flexibility. They do have a top five protection on the 2029 pick, which I think makes it a little bit better in my mind. You like know you can't get screwed entirely by that pick being that far out there. Um, but I knocked that one down to just a minor success. And the Cavs, I want to knock this one down to just a net neutral. They've had amazing regular seasons, has not translated to the playoffs. Also, Lauri Markkanen is now a Jazzman, and Utah may be able to flip him for basically the same package that they flipped Donovan Mitchell for. Maybe not quite that big of a package, but like they could probably get something decent for Markkanen. And so I think it's a neutral trade at this point for Cleveland. Yeah, maybe still a minor success. That 2029 first worries me for the Cavs, who are not getting better.
yeah, that's still, yeah, yeah, maybe.
I mean, I guess Mobley's still young. Like it's a lot of future assets to give out, and the holes that they have are still real, and it's uh, I get minor success is fine.
Mm. And then we come into two really wonderful deals from the Phoenix Suns. Um, and when we get to the end of this exercise and we're doing an analysis of whether or not teams should make these kind of trades, I do think it's important to give the context of the position that the Suns were in when they made the Bradley Beal trade, where the Suns acquiring Kevin Durant for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, uh, three, four firsts in a swap, which Zach Cram deemed a major failure, which is probably correct. Um, you know, they've got him better just by getting rid of him. Um, that one is brutal. But then the Bradley Beal trade, which is also a major failure. Um, they were in a position where they needed to do something to upgrade, and like Bradley Beal was a unique opportunity where his value compared to his potential on-court production was so disparate.
I I one reject the idea that Chris Paul for Bradley Beal was a blockbuster. I fully these were four swaps. The first has not conveyed. The second, it, actually may convey now that Phoenix has been solid this year. Or no, Phoenix is outperforming in Washington. So Washington won't want to swap this again. So it's gone from four swaps down to probably two swaps. So we'll see when Washington is better than Phoenix to make this anything more than just a one for one player trade. Um, I do agree with it being a major failure because I thought Chris Paul was incredibly helpful to the Suns team that made the finals. I get that he can grade on his teammates, as he is still sent home for the Clippers. They have not cut him. They have not traded him. He's just not there due to some of that grading on them. But uh, Chris Paul's on court production would have actually been really helpful. Having someone to run the point, run the ship, would have helped the Durant era in Phoenix in my mind. So definitely a major failure.
Mhm.
And I will say this: I think the Durant acquisition maybe wouldn't have been a major failure had they kept Chris Paul. I don't know that it wouldn't have been a failure in entirety, but I think some of the subsequent Phoenix moves really added up to the failure for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Um, and then rounding out Zach Ram's article, we get the three to be determined of Mikal Bridges to the Knicks, De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs, and Desmond Bain to the Magic. Where are you feeling strongly in either direction on those trades, or you think it truly is too early to tell?
I mean, I think we'll eventually say that the Knicks and the Magic ones were minor failures, just because I don't think they're winning
That
championships.
because they gave up so much and they're probably not going to win.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe Orlando can be good enough that those swaps never convey. If Memphis bottoms out, then that 2026 and 2029 swaps are just somewhat worthless. So it's two picks for Pope. Um, and that's not the worst. As far as the Mikal Bridges goes, you gave up a 2031 pick. That's 5 years from now. I'm not gonna be podcasting in 5 years. Who knows what anyone's gonna be doing?
You're
As
not
soon as
going
you
to be
start,
podcasting in 5 years.
no, I'm gonna have two kids and be taking to soccer and basketball and maybe hockey. I don't know. Can you let kids play hockey at like 6?
Guys, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. I'm being broken up with in advance.
Yeah, in 5 years. It just it's far enough out. Like, Dylan, what were you doing 5 years ago other than the show?
Um, Disgustingly, very little difference.
Okay, maybe things don't change as much in 5 years, but just like I don't know. I'm not picturing the Knicks being that good. Like the core that the Knicks currently have right now. OG in 5 years is not going to be what he is today. Brunson in 5 years is probably not going to be as good. Cat like they're going to go downhill, and it's just I think
Yeah,
that one
they've
bare
they've got
minimum.
they've got a couple swings in the meantime.
I feel like that one's got the biggest chance to be like a major failure if the Knicks can't make the finals. And that is lowering the bar because I said championship earlier. Now I'm saying finals. The Spurs one, Cram declared it a minor success at this point with room to grow. I think the fact that the Bulls pick looks like a waste, the Horns pick didn't convey. I don't know whose 2027 pick that is. I would assume it's their own.
Probably their own, which is not going to be very good.
Not going to be very good. 2031 from the Timberwolves, that may be really good. Um, what we'll see, but you know, it's been fine. I think that you can flip Fox to reacquire a pick or two. if need be.
Mm,
But yeah, I think it's a solid trade.
mm. So then the conclusion.
The conclusions don't do blockbuster trades unless you're like a piece away. But if you're a
Yeah.
team that can get a blockbuster offer, hell yeah, do it.
Mm, mm. So the conclusion is if you have a star player and you can get a really good return, then do it. Um, and if you are a team that's a middling playoff team and you're like, this guy's going to put us over the top, he's probably not going to put you over the top. And like, yeah, unless it's the final piece to win a championship, um,
Yeah.
then it's not worth it.
Yeah, also the other thing that can be mentioned in here is like a lot of these teams, unless they really got the mother load of picks and got a lot of swings at the apple, as it were, um, they didn't really benefit that much from these trades. Like the Drew Holiday trade, cool, you got RJ Hampton. You swapped to the 21 for the 23 pick. The 2025 pick
Mm.
was number 19. Like, it just it doesn't look like the biggest outcomes for some of these trades
Yeah, no,
for the teams that got them.
I was gonna say, even if from that perspective, the we were looking at the teams that was receiving the star player. Well, how about the teams that were trading away the star player? Where did they end up? And like outside of the Thunder, is there any team who? Oh, I guess the Thunder, the Celtics. There are a couple teams that transformed their entire
Yeah,
trajectory of their franchise by
yeah.
making these moves.
And that the next Bucks pick could be much better. It very well could be a lottery. Yeah, the swap rights that keep bouncing around. But I think maybe the moral of the story should be unless you had a good front office in place prior to the trade, after this trade is done, fire that entire front start office and like invest heavily in draft guys. That's the motto I'm taking away from it.
Yeah. No, that maybe raises an interesting point about NBA front offices where like different there's this idea around coaches that sometimes there's the coach that takes you to the playoff and there's the coach that gets you over the
Mm-hmm.
hump. The classic Mark Jackson Steve Kerr thing. Well, maybe you should look at general managers in the same way. Just because they got you to a certain point doesn't mean they're the one to get you over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, Utah traded away Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, got a boatload of picks, and thus far has not done a ton with them. I mean, they're Keontae George is looking better this year. Taylor Hendricks has always been injured. Bryce Sensabaugh has his loyal fans. Isaiah Collier's fine. Kyle Filipowski fine. Cody Williams has now set an NBA record with a single game negative 60 on off. Yeah, yeah. Um, they drafted Will Riley and flipped him. Ace Bailey has been kind of disappointing in my book. Look, this year it's his rookie year. Like we'll see, but um,
Mm,
you know, uh, they did do the thing of bringing in a new front office. They brought in Danny Ainge. So you make the trades and then you try to get someone who's better at this. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But Dylan, anything else for you?
no, I think we're good.
All right, Dylan, where can the people find you?
Every week on the Hoops Temple podcast for the next 5 years, and then looking for a new job, I suppose.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of front offices looking for the number one unemployed New Zealand front office consultant. You can find me here. You can find me Nate _Hoops Temple on TikTok and YouTube. Email the show, hoopstemple@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.